long-term goal setting or short-term goal setting. Both perfectly great ways to stay accountable and to effectively pave your own path to the Holy Grail. So this episode's all about how you can create and stick to goals specific to your pro wrestling journey. So 3 years ago, I wrote a blog that seemed to resonate with a lot of people, and I'll make sure to drop it in the description below. The blog was all about my own battles with goal setting, because I was someone who very early on never really had long-term goals. The thought of being signed to a major contract or even making it to WWE or even gaining a tryout was so beyond the realm of thought that it just never really entered my mind. It was a great thought, but possible? Probably not. And for a long time, I felt some guilt about this because I would see all these success stories of celebrities who said they set long-term goals, these big, grandiose dreams, and that nothing was impossible as long as you believed that it could happen. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger said that he was going to become a politician one day and be the governor and become Mr. Olympia. And he did it. We can't all become Mr. Olympia. We can't all become the governor of California. And I'd felt like maybe I'd missed the boat on a lot of things. I was coming towards my late 20s and feeling a little bit like my career wasn't going anywhere beyond Australia. So I thought to myself, maybe I should have moved overseas sooner. Maybe I should have traveled the world even more than I already did. I mean, don't get me wrong, I spent my life savings multiple times to head to America and head to Japan and train wherever I could and do whatever I could to get ahead in any way possible. But maybe that wasn't enough. But the more I thought about it, the more I started to notice that so many people around me had nothing but these long-term goals, and when they didn't achieve these goals within what they deemed an appropriate time frame, they started to become jaded and actually despise what they originally used to love. So they would move on to passion project after passion project and just giving up anytime they didn't reach this goal. Does this mean you should abandon long-term goals because they're too risky? Absolutely not. And the more that I've had time to self-reflect, the more I've discovered that having both long-term and short-term goals is probably the way to go. And how you balance that really depends on you, your personality, and what motivates and drives you. See, for me, I realized that short-term goals was something that I always followed, even subconsciously without realizing. It wasn't that I lacked ambition because I didn't have these long-term goals when I started wrestling. It's just that I wanted to work towards what was right in front of me. Where was the light at the end of the tunnel? Well, when I started training, it was just having a match on a show. And that's all I thought about. And I worked so hard to get towards that one short-term goal. And then once I achieved that short-term goal, my goals changed. And then it became working my way up the card. It became wrestling interstate. It became traveling overseas, making my way to Japan, getting my way onto a WWE tryout, making my way into WWE television. In the beginning, the thought of being on WWE television as a 15-year-old trainee in Adelaide was outrageous. But the more that I worked towards these short-term goals, the more that they evolved and the more that the goalposts kept moving back. So what was originally completely out of the realm of possibility was now the next logical step in my short-term goal setting. And the thing about a lot of these short-term goals they were achievable. And I could celebrate the little wins along the way. That would keep me motivated, happy, and passionate about pro wrestling. Had I only thought about that original long-term goal, that childhood dream, I might have become burnt out, I might have become jaded, it could have affected my mental health, it might have affected my decision-making. And of course, in hindsight, had I put all of my eggs into one basket and moved myself overseas, perhaps I would have got a little further. But I also wouldn't have had other things in my life that I have today. Counting those little wins along the way is so important, not just to keeping you on the right track, but to enjoying your life. So I suggest setting a long-term goal and using that to decide what your short-term goals are that will get you towards the long-term. And I like to use a framework with a lot of my trainees called the SMART goal setting framework. You may have seen it before. Maybe your long-term goal is to get signed to a major promotion in pro wrestling. So your short-term goals to get you towards that path could be improving your physique, working on your diet, branching out and networking, improving your social media game. And then you can take one of those short-term goals and plug it into the SMART framework. Now, using the SMART framework allows us to check off these short-term goals to make sure that they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and also timely. Now, by having that time frame, it allows you to reassess and to self-analyze to decide, does this have to continue being a goal for me? Or should I move the goalposts, or should I change them completely? What you might often find is that after a period of time, your long-term goals might change a little or a lot. Is this a bad thing? I don't think so. As people, we evolve, we grow up, we mature. Our passions change, our desires change, our values change. Everything we do in life has brought us up to this moment, and I believe you can take a positive from every situation. Unfortunately, pro wrestling isn't always fair. Things don't always come in a timely fashion. But like I said in one of my recent videos about learning every style of pro wrestling, sometimes it takes years to get the payoff for work you put in early. So keep at it, keep trying, and if you lose the passion, reassess. All of this may seem a little bit overwhelming to some of you, and that's completely fine. If it takes the fun out of whatever you're doing, don't stress. But I feel like we could all benefit from a little bit of self-reflection from time to time, whether that allows you to plan your next step in life or even just to celebrate some of your recent wins. Thanks for sticking around, and if you have any suggestions for what works for you in terms of goal setting, please drop it in the comments below. YouTubers, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. Facebookers, a simple like and share would do the job. And I'll see you soon for more weekly World-Beater Wrestling episodes.
If you want to see more videos like this, click on the subscribe button, spread the word, and if you have any questions or requests for World-Beater Wrestling, don't be afraid to comment below.